If you were in the committee room and they were just ready to go out and announce who was going to be in, last call, what would you have said to the committee members to make sure that Florida State was going to be in the Final Four?
Guys, I think we have um, a problem, and the problem is this: is that we're making judgment inside this room on what we think is going to happen on the field. And need I remind you, Friday night we watched Oregon play Washington. Everyone that I talked to outside of the state of Washington thought that Oregon was a better team than Washington. Vegas had them as a 10-point favorite, depending on which book you looked at. Washington won. Tulane was a favorite over SMU. Everyone thought that Tulane would beat SMU. Vegas had them as a favorite. SMU won the game with a second-team quarterback, Dan. And I think I would have told everybody, let's be careful. This sport has always been a show-me sport. You play it on the grass, between the white lines, and regardless of what we think we know, how many times have we been surprised by teams making a run, whether it's pro football or college football? Remember the New York Giants, 9-7, wild card team, barely got in. Remember those Giants? And I think we all know what happened that season. So you never know what's going to happen. And I think we better be careful when we start playing the game inside a nice, comfortable room, eating scrambled eggs and bacon, and nice little warm fire there, because the game is not played that way. And I would have just put my microphone down and told them all, if you can honestly say that you know that Florida State can't win a game or two in the playoff, then you can sleep well at night. But I can't.
Yeah, it's the cruel reality of this, Booger. It is a beauty pageant. At the end of the season, everything that is window dressing during the season. Where are you? Top 4, 5, who's in, who's out, all of that. It comes down to the bottom line. It's going to be fan bases that travel, games that are interesting. Will you go to 2 bowl games? Will you fill up the stadiums? Will people tune in to watch this? There's a lot of ancillary things that happen here. I don't think the ACC is viewed as a true power conference. I think it's the Big Ten and in the SEC. Pac-12, probably, with their conference schedule this year, better conference than the ACC. I think this was a reality check for the ACC of where they stand in college football. We may not like it, but there's unwritten rules. You go undefeated, you're supposed to play for a national championship. Well, if you have your starting quarterback, I certainly understand that. And even if their backup quarterback, Booger, if they put up 28 points against Louisville, I think they're in.
Yeah.
I think the committee looked at this and went, there's no draw with this team. There's no reason. If Jordan Travis plays, then yes. But it's unfair, but it's the reality of this. And that's what people have to understand. It's about money and it's a bottom line business.
Well, Dan, I'm going to disagree with you right there. Again, I think you're doing the same thing. If you're projecting, yeah, it's a draw, but football has never been about.
I'm not agreeing with it. I'm explaining it,
right,
Booger.
Right. Yes, I get that. But football is a sport, man. Like, we watch football because we never really know. Any given Sunday, that's the old cliche. And so when you start talking about the draw and the matchup and what's sexy, who cares what's sexy? This is not a sport like figure skating. This is not that. It's never been that. So even though we want to make it that out to be a beauty pageant, the innate nature of the game of football takes you away from being that. And so I hear you, and I hear everybody that's saying, man, it's about the money and the matchups and all these different things. Yeah, to a certain extent, you can schedule those matchups in the non-conference. But when you start putting together a playoff, that is earned. That is something that is earned. And so I will go to my grave saying that Florida State, based on what we do, and to your point, here's what I'll say to you. So 10 of the 13 members on the committee were the same last year. Okay, there's 3 that are different. Last year, I think you and I can both agree, Alabama, who lost to Tennessee, who lost to LSU, was a better team than TCU.
Yes.
I think they were a better team.
Yeah.
TCU lost the conference championship to Kansas State. They put TCU in the playoff. So why last year did we not go and get the best team last year? What's the difference? To me, there is no difference. So I just think based on the people in that room, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to speak for them, they made up in their mind that Florida State can't compete. And there are coaches in the room. There's two coaches in the room. And I can't believe those two coaches let that happen. And maybe they were the ones who were in the forefront of leading the charge. I have no idea. I wasn't in the room. I just think it's a dangerous game to play sports inside a room instead of on a court or on the grass.
I agree. I understand it. I just try to explain what was told to me by a higher authority involved in college football.
Do you agree with it?
I know it's a TV show. I know
That's not what I asked you, Dan.
Do I agree with the 4 teams that are in?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
And why is that?
I once again, I deal in reality of a bottom line, and that is these are sexy matchups, marquee match. Texas might be the best team. You got Harbaugh in there. You got Nick Saban. Alabama. I mean, Washington has a great quarterback, wide receiver. Like, we want to see excitement. If the NFL could prevent a team from the NFC South from hosting a playoff, don't you think they would do that? Don't you think?
But they can't.
They can't. But college football can create what they want to create. The NFL can't. The NFL would go, hey, you know who's in? Cowboys and the Chiefs. They're in the Super Bowl. Hey, Atlanta's going to host a playoff game and may have 8 wins on the season. They can't control that.
Well, if that's the case, then if that's the case, why are we playing the games?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I just have to look at both sides with this. Do I think Florida State has an argument? Absolutely. Do I feel bad for that coach, that team, that quarterback? Absolutely. But I've been around for a long time doing this and understanding what motivates. The reason why we're going to 12 teams is why, Booger? Because of money. Why did we go from 2 to 4 when they finally realized how much money they could make? That's why we're going to 12. March Madness used to be 32 teams. It's 68. Why? It's money. It's not always fair. And that's where I end on it's money. It's unfortunate, but it's money.
I get it.
All right.